Many people enjoy building the wide variety of aircraft model kits that are available, but what happens when your kit is full-size and fully functional?
They're part of our aviation heritage.
It was quite a bit of work at that point because it had been broken into and vandalised.
We like to see these aircraft screaming down the runway as fast as they can go.
With over 100 years of aviation history, there comes 100 years of aircraft. Enthusiasts and general public have come to enjoy seeing these aircraft at museums, air shows and displays. Whilst the RAF maintain their own historic flight of Second World War aircraft, it falls to a small number of dedicated, skilled volunteers to keep the majority of the privately owned aircraft restoration projects going. Like any historic machine, someone needs to restore, preserve and maintain these historic aircraft. Dennis Parker is one such individual who works to keep a Cold War era aircraft running.
My present role is I'm the crew chief on Buccaneer XX900. So Buccaneer is a low-level strike aircraft, and the whole idea of the Bruntingthorpe Museum, which is where we are, is to keep as many aircraft in live running order as possible, short of flying.
Running these aircraft takes a huge amount of time and effort from a huge number of volunteers. Some are former military personnel, but many have had no previous experience with aviation. Robert Newton is another volunteer at Bruntingthorpe who shares the passion for maintaining historic aircraft.
I am technically called the crew chief because I'm responsible for all the maintenance of the aircraft, getting the spare parts for it, fitting the spare parts and keeping it in good running order so we can run it on open days.
I heard they were forming a volunteer group to look after the Vulcan XH558. I came to see the guy who was looking after it, and I said, look, I know nothing about aeroplanes, but can I keep it clean, polish it? He says, well, what's your trade? I said, I'm a BT engineer. He says, electrical, isn't it? Picked the book up and threw it at me. He said, read that, you'll know our lecky, or electrician. And for 7 years I kept that aircraft running electrically. I'm quite proud of that fact, actually.
The Vulcan to the Sky Truss aircraft is one of the several restored and running Vulcan bombers in the UK. It holds the prestige of being the last flying Vulcan left in the world, but there are a few other Vulcan projects working hard to keep aircraft running. But what do the project volunteers have to do to get one of these enormous aircraft running? Kate Tapp is events manager on the restoration project to preserve fully runnable Vulcan XM655s.
It was quite a bit of work at that point because it had been broken into and vandalised. We got lots of help from all sorts of other Vulcan projects around the country, and all of them chipped in with various bits and pieces to help us, museums as well as the ones that are operational. British Aerospace, who were at the time running Woodford, let us take bits off XM603, and we went and took a couple of engines out of that as well as various other little bits. The most important thing is people's time and the skills that they bring with them.
There appears to be a huge amount of work to maintain these aircraft, and the volunteers have no shortage of passion. So what is involved in the process of restoring the project's aircraft back to their former glory?
They're sort of trucked in on the backs of lorries, so they have to be fitted all together. So the first thing you do after that is to do an assessment of what you need, what is missing, and try and get the spare parts necessary for it. And then you've got to try and make everything that you can do work as best you can.
So things like looking after the engines, check them over, make sure that they are safe to operate in front of the public as we do at Wings and Wheels. And then there's the unexpected, so we get aircrew. We never quite know what they're going to do with our aeroplane. They put it through different stresses and strains to what we would do, so if things are going to happen, they will always happen when it's being operated properly.
Bruntingthorpe is unique in the fact that we usually bring aircraft in that are in running order. They literally are aircraft straight from the RAF or whichever air arm they come from, and basically they are running, and we maintain them in full running order as much as we possibly can, subject to spares and time.
With the decline in companies producing parts and fitting them, it presents the biggest issue faced by the people maintaining these aircraft. Could modern technology and production methods, such as 3D printing, help to solve some of the problems?
To be honest, I'm not sure. I've not gone into this 3D printing thing. I've only just heard about it recently. But if there's something that we can't obtain, we may have to resort to 3D printing, that sort of thing.
Perhaps some of these new methods might be the solution to fix supply shortages on the mechanical side of the projects. With the addition of the next generations of volunteers coming into these projects, will they bring different skills and methods with them? With the parts in hand, it still requires a large amount of volunteers to help the project personnel fit them. What kind of people are the volunteers running these projects, and where are the new members coming from?
Anybody. We've got builders, plumbers, me, I'm an ex-BT engineer. You name it, we've got it virtually. There are an odd one or two professionals. My son Lee, he's a professional aircraft engineer, and he comes down and helps me with 900. In fact, to be honest, I couldn't do it on my own. If anybody likes to get actually blackened with oil and grease and rubbish and stuff, yeah, they're quite welcome. We'll take anybody in, and we'll train them.
Most of our volunteers come along because they've been on a visit, they're interested in Vulcans, and they see that there are a group of us here with a wide range of skills, and they think that they can contribute something, and very often they can. As long as you're willing to help and willing to talk to people, we can find something for you to do.
Our main way is by advertising on our open days. We usually have a little stand, and then there's a load of forms, application forms. Every year we get probably about 16 or 17. We don't know. We've tried everything we could think of. We've been on forums saying, come and join us. We don't have no experience required, but we get the odd few call.
So I think it is just letting people know we're here. I would hope that people would want to get involved, doing what we can to advertise our existence. Having the cadets help is wonderful. We've got 2 groups of cadets here today, and that's great. It's lovely to have them here and have them learning about the practical side of aviation.
By increasing awareness and looking at new avenues for promoting and recruiting new volunteers, they could find the people to keep the projects running in the future. So what can new volunteers expect if they join in with one of these projects?
You've got to have an awful lot of patience, and you've got to have a lot of commitment to work on these things. They think all they've got to do is just wipe the things clean and off they go.
You've got to be used to getting dirty, oily, greasy, skin your knuckles, freeze. You've just got to be adaptable. You've just got to be prepared to dig in and literally get filthy.
When it comes to running these aircraft, aside from the huge financial investment required, it seems that it comes down to parts and participation. There's no shortage of motivation with the volunteers currently involved in the projects. They love these aircraft and getting to work on them, but why do they think it's important to maintain these aircraft?
They're part of our aviation heritage, and I always think that there's a big difference between having something that's stuck in a museum and doing nothing. If it actually works, it seems to have got a little bit of soul about it. And there can come a time where if we don't keep these things running, then we're going to lose all the skills necessary to keep them running.
The PC argument is we must save these icons of British aviation heritage to show children and young people what we were like when we had an Air Force. But the real reason is we like to see these aircraft screaming down the runway as fast as we can without actually flying. It's big boys' toys.